Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul finally made it. All
All
right.
right, it's not your fault. It's mine. For whenever, you know what? These guys are messing with me. They're messing
It
with. I mean,
happens.
good thing I got two phone lines that you can get through. How
Yep.
are you doing tonight?
It's a busy night.
It really is. It really is. And I was thinking about last week. You said we may end up talking about Miami some.
Yep.
Do you want to
Oh
start
yeah.
there? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I
Let's
got
go.
a
Let's
ton of
go.
stuff. Okay, go ahead.
Let's go. So everybody has a. They know about the kids that went to the mall, right?
Yep.
They
Yep.
know about all the police that showed up and everything else. What they don't know about are some of the post stories and some of the kids that were involved. Some of the kids right now suffer from night terrors. Do you know that? The exact same type of night terrors.
Really?
Right? So you have a couple dozen kids who have these same reoccurring dreams, and it's because of what was actually caught there. Now, I'm not going to say aliens, but I'll tell you something: the same night terrors a person would have of them being frozen in the bed, they can't move, something sitting on their chest, right? What they call that the hag, the old hag, or something like that. But we know that's demonic, right? We know
Right.
that's
That's
demonic.
right. We know it.
And so, what these kids actually saw, and what two of the cameras inside of a store. Now, the two cameras inside the store were on the shelf, and all of a sudden, this whole shelf of cameras turns on, and it begins to record this dark spot. Some a leg came out of this dark spot.
Hmm.
Right. So the kids were looking at it, and of course they went berserk. They just went absolutely berserk. And so the police showed up and everything else. I believe they were trying to uh, dismiss that story to cause a little more chaos than normal,
Really?
because one of the first things they did was get the kids out of that general area, and they wouldn't let anybody go back into that general area. Nobody was in that area. One of the major problems is what these kids, what about a dozen are having night terrors. About five kids saw it, and the cameras certainly picked it up. They saw the exact same thing. This is not something unusual. This happens, right? It happens from time to time, um, unfortunately. But how these kids are suffering, for example, they have an eerie feeling at home. They can't sleep. Their eating habits are disrupted. Many of them were nauseous for about the first week. They're having the night terrors, continued night terrors. Just about all these kids who are in that general vicinity are still seeking help. So it is it's unfortunate, and these are some of the real side effects of being around things like that. I believe it was absolutely 100% demonic. That's what I believe it was. I don't believe it was a some 10-foot tall thing walking. I don't believe that. Um, I believe it was right there in that general area. That was an open mall, and they saw what they saw, and they perceived what they perceived. Even a few of the police officers are not doing well, right? So this influence, this nasty influence, really affected those kids. Now the same thing happened with the one kid that saw those beings in the back of his house. You remember that?
Right. I do.
Same night terrors for the family. And of course, that guy just disappeared. He tried to tell a story, nobody believed him, and he disappeared. One of the biggest misnomers is the origin of these things. From every single group I've been involved with, it's the exact same thing. It has the same characteristics as what people would refer to as a demon, right?
Right. Right.
The same characteristics, the same modus operandi, right? Some of the same looks. The people suffer from the same things, but it's spreading like wildfire. Some of the kids who have these night terrors, when they go around other kids, here's something that is not good at all. When you're around a person who has night terrors, if you're not covered, you're going to have them too.
Hmm.
You'll have the same nightly invaders, you could say. They're extremely seductive, right? So you can almost predict what these kids are about to go through if they don't get some type of help. Many of them are reaching out to them, right? They ultimately have gone to pastors to get that help. But you're talking about kids with foul mouths who are humbled, who are tough kids who are now scared to death because of this issue, this situation. But
So,
that's your Miami wrap up there, and it's whatever it is, whatever that influence is, never left, right? It never
mm,
left because there are too many similar reports coming in about or complaints, medical complaints of these same things, right? Rashes go with it. There are physical effects with this.
rashes?
Yeah,
Huh.
rashes, some other thing, probably from low level radiation or something like that. But there are physical effects to these demonic encounters these days. Physical effects,
Okay.
right? Which is something akin to the real falling. You know what the military has dealt with, what special operations has dealt with from time to time, what has messed up, observation platforms from time to time. That type of descriptive is best served here, and it's spreading. It's happening in more places in Florida. Florida
So,
was just reported because of the sheer number of kids,
well,
right?
you had the Las Vegas issue that got everybody's
Yep.
attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of eyewitnesses down there in Miami over this event.
Right, because you sometimes you do have kids that bunch up and have these, of course, what was going on in California, these kids getting together and destroying places, right? But in Florida, nothing was destroyed. Nothing. As far as the discharge of weapons, there was no discharge of any weapon. Nothing.
Hmm.
Right. So, but it was a large police presence. Right.
Right.
That same day, of course, they're going to come up with their CS cover stories, but they said a lot of kids were assembling in a specific area where they were there at the mall. But the problem was the footage. Right. And they did not. Whoever sanitized that area did not sanitize some of those retail cameras. That got out and it's too late. So those things will be in circulation in any way a person can get them out there. I doubt if the internet will work contrary to popular belief. Anything that goes on the internet, they can catch in, one less than a millionth of a second and zap it off if they really don't want it. But yeah, these guys
Right.
had real encounters. And you know what, Pascal, this is something that has been known, well, since I stepped foot into certain arenas. This has been a known thing that's going to happen more and more as we come closer and closer to the turn, they say, the turnover, whatever they're calling it. It's when many people will be exposed to the exact same thing, right? So,
Are they?
this really scared the peanuts out of everybody's M&Ms who
Well,
saw
is
it.
it coming out of the? Is this something coming from the ground or?
No, it's almost like a dimensional hole.
Okay.
Think of a hula hoop, right? A bright hula hoop forming in front of you. Inside is just black, and something steps out of that blackness. This will be seen more and more.
Mm. Something steps out of the blackness.
Yep.
So we're talking about demonic, really. We're really,
Yes.
yeah. I
Yes.
mean, really demonic here. And you're saying it's not going to slow down any.
No, that's one of the real reasons for Robert Bigelow, right? When he investigated some of the properties he bought up and investigated. It's the same reason they have investigations right now. It's the same reason why the military has clamped down on national parks. It's the same thing. That same phenomena, that identical phenomena. Not so much the lights and the orbs and things like they know what that is. But these hula hoop type things
Hula
that are
hoop.
dark in the center, yeah, it looks like a lit hula hoop where
Okay.
something comes right out of the center, right? Some they call them dimensional entities, whatever they want to call them. We know what they are. We know what they are. They believe they know where they're coming from and going to, but this is a major, major problem. It's happening more and more. And as anytime, this is something curious, anytime um, dissension, hatred, violence is experienced on a bigger and bigger scale, these things are always present.
Mm.
All throughout history, the same phenomena has been seen. Lots of people look up in the skies because they want, I don't know, they want some ET from Planet Lasagna to come visit them.
What?
But for the most part, what's been happening is these things have been stepping through
Can,
doorways that people can't really identify.
there's a guy, Mike. Let me just throw this out there. There's a guy recently been on. He says that he was part of a black space program.
Okay.
Okay, and he says that there are entities from a dark force that is going to and has already been visiting people. Can you? Is this? I mean, he says he was done. He was involved in a briefing back in the summer when the U.S. Congress, U.S. senators were briefed on UFO and alien
Hmm.
encounters, and that because he was already part of the black space program, they briefed him as well, and that this dark force was bringing or has brought to the earth parasites that have already invaded people. I don't know what in the world. I mean, the guy seems very credible. I saw it on YouTube. I've heard about him a long time. Is there anything like that you've heard about that you could share?
Yeah. Well, that if that guy would know about the triple S vehicles outside the exosphere, he would also know about certain interventions, or let's just say disputes of a hierarchy which is taking place. They're pass ball in that field, right? It is incredibly ambiguous at best, right?
Okay.
It's a very confusing field, but there is a truth. Christians should have the truth, the core truth of this story. But just like we have many different races between human beings, so do they have many different races among themselves.
Okay, that's what he
When
said.
the flood came, in the Bible, it clearly states there were Nephilim in the earth before the flood and also after that,
Yes.
right? These guys have extraordinary knowledge. You're talking about knowledge from thousands of years, compacted on thousands of years, which is passed down to some hybrid looking body that can handle all those memories. So they have advancements we couldn't even think of. So they manipulate creation, they harness materials, they do all sorts of things to carry out what they are going to carry out. So are they out there in the external atmospheric places? Yes. Are they inside the earth? Yes. Are they all over the place? Yes. They don't have the limits we have, right? But there are different types of them, different types. Now, even back in the old days, even as far as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Baruch, and all these different books, you can see that they were at war with each other. Some of the same disputes that two brothers would have, right? They had
Mm.
family disputes too. They were not totally in sync, and they loved to fight one another. That same fight has spilled over. It's right now present. Here's the difference. A while ago, if you notice for example, the evolution of UFOs back in the 500, right? When it was year 500, people saw things in the skies. You go up to the thousands, they saw birds, metallic birds. Go up to the 1300s, they saw balloons, right, with big flashlight things on them, right? You go up to the 1700s, they saw bigger blimps that were tubular, that were quite fast. So what they do is they stay a step ahead of man's imaginations. In fact, the founder of Lockheed Skunk Works he was inspired by a triangle craft he saw, right? He was inspired by that. That's the creator
By who? Now,
of
who was he? Who was
that
he?
was the guy from Lockheed.
Okay, Lockheed
Um,
Martin. Are we talking about
yeah,
Bob
we're
Lazar?
talking about the founders. We're
Bob
talking about the
Lazar?
founders here.
Bob Lazar,
No,
maybe?
he wasn't the
Okay,
founder.
okay, okay,
He
okay,
wasn't a
okay,
founder.
okay. I'm sorry.
But we're talking about triangle craft that look like what people are calling the TRB-3, right? That same craft has been documented all the way back to the 1800s, going, to the present day. Um, but he was inspired by that. Man is often inspired by what they see in these demonic entities. They know that, right? And so they stay one step ahead of man's imagination. So people saw blimps that were fast moving with propellers. One crashed in Texas, for example.
Okay.
Um, They saw metallic birds. Indians called them thunderbirds, and they had a very good description. Even when they landed, they say they burnt the ground, right? So these thunderbirds were not quite, they weren't quite living things, more so much as big metallic craft that they saw for the most part. Um, Come to the common day, you see these big cigar shaped things, right? You see, well, the Tic Tac, hate to tell everybody, that's ours. But the big, long, cylindrical craft that you see sometimes vertical, this, that, and the other, they always stay a step ahead of the imaginations of mankind to keep us engaged in our imaginations. What does that do? And this is what I was taught day one. They want people to have a desire for them. That's how they stay around. That's
Wow.
how they're authorized to operate. So long as people have a desire, right? It's mankind giving over his authority to them. And so, what have you seen for the past 50 years? You've seen a stronger and stronger desire for people, right? For people to see these things. They want to see them, they're infatuated with them. And so long as a person has that desired door open, these things can operate more and more every single day. These parasitic creatures that you're talking about that are left behind is more like residue or cursed object. You could say that much. But they also operate by the spirit of mankind. Meaning, if a person desires to know more from something, right? They don't know what that something is, and they inquire to look deeply into it. Well, there you are. They have created an open door for entry of these dimensional entities or demons.
Mm.
That's why every single last one of these entities, right? All somebody has to do is rebuke them in the name of Jesus, and
Amen.
that's the end of that. That
Amen.
truly is the end of that.
Amen. Mike, matter of fact, today I was interviewed for a television show. It will be airing on what's called the Paranormal Caught on Camera. This is on the Travel Channel, and it'll be coming out later this summer. I'll let you guys know exactly the date and the episode. But it has to do, you know, how they've caught so much paranormal stuff on camera. Well, 12 years ago, I had the crucifix come flying off the wall when I challenged
Right.
the devil. Well, they did a. It's going to be on one of the programs. I interviewed with them today. They're going to show the clip and all that. And I said to them, you know, it's demonic. Hopefully they edit it right, but we'll see what they do with it. But I said to them, you know, this was demonic. I felt a cold demonic force. I felt this like that. It didn't stay. It came and
Hmm.
gone.
Yeah.
I challenged the devil, which you should never do, and he responded. He didn't stick around because he can't, because of the blood of Jesus. But
Right.
he did manifest. There's no question he manifested. So I'm wondering, in these dark forces, whether they be some types of manifestations, maybe from alien-looking forces, demonic forces. Can the devil manifest in many different ways?
Sure it does. But okay, by say for example, Catholic categories, right?
Okay.
A lot of folks who are involved in exorcisms,
Yeah.
they know Satan in four specific ways, and each manifestation is a bit different, categorized in a different way, uh, based on the what force level the guy's going to use, that Satan's going to use. So yes, he can show up in multiple different ways, but then so can the demonic entities do the same thing. So do principalities, right? And they show up also. These forces all operate the same, though. They do. They all operate the same. They have the same end goal. One of their masterful tricks is seduction, is to
Mm.
get mankind to believe in a lie in the first place. Now, think of something. If a person sees a UFO, their imagination goes to work because they're going to wonder what that is. It doesn't matter who they are. If they see something glowing in the sky, it's going to capture their attention
Right.
because it's something that, especially if it makes no noise, it becomes closer, is distant, whatever the case is. And believe me, today they're getting video of UFOs like from possibly maybe 100 feet away in great, great, great detail with occupants on board. So they're going through the whole thing. Um, And there have been larger cases of the same thing, but all of them have the same effect. Number one, sound. Something happens to the sound of the individual. The individual gets locked somewhat in a daze. And that cold breeze you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
it's a pressure breeze, right? It's
Mm.
like a pressure breeze. Um, and it goes right down to your bone. It's almost like your whole body just lost this warmth all of a sudden, right?
Right.
Um, and then you get this, of course, the silence or the muffling of sound. All these different manifestation techniques, I'll call them, but they're pretty good magicians. Um, they manifest this way because their form, right, are opposite of ours. We live by light, children of the light, children of the day. These are creatures of the night, which is
Mm.
why no woman should ever say, well, I wonder why that person was evil. Ladies, don't do that. Because demons, the same way we like to shake the hand of somebody or say, I love you, fella, have a good, do a good job. They like to fight and murder each other, right?
Gee.
Because they don't die. They don't die. They seek a
Okay. Yeah, you're
vessel
right. You're right.
to enact their works in the earth. They don't die. They love to murder each other, just like we love to embrace each other. So
Mm.
it's opposite. They think the opposite of what we do, but they're incredibly smart. The U.S. government knows them as liars. There are people on the inside, right, that have seen the shells of these things. And when I say by shells, I mean some type of, they're comprised of plants, insects, and animal life, and some human life. Now think of that concoction of a vessel. These things are masters at biology. So they know what makes everything tick, right? And they can make themselves shells, which is what they've been doing for a long time. Um, they inhabit these shells, just like possessing a person. So would they possess one of these shells? These shells, to my knowledge, can live about 5, 6, 700 years. But the force inside, Pastor Paul, is the exact same thing as a demonic entity, right? A
Okay.
demonic entity, and that you challenged that thing, right?
Yes, I did.
Right now,
I
right
challenged
now
it.
they have special cameras. Special. In fact, if somebody had an infrared camera, not the phosphorus based either, but an infrared camera, they would be able to see. I bet they shut that camera off. I can almost
Well,
guarantee
that
they shut the
camera
camera off.
I used was my camera. It was in my apartment 12 years ago, and it captured this crucifix, this which was a family heirloom that I had up on a
Mhm.
cabinet that was leaning 45 degrees, weighed 4.5 pounds, it had a nail tacked at the bottom so it wouldn't slide off. This thing just come off the wall, and I mean,
Yeah.
you can see it on YouTube. You guys just look for the crucifix thrown, the devil through the crucifix of Pastor Paul. Well, these guys on the paranormal caught on camera are doing a whole episode on this, and
Oh yeah.
they said to
They
me, they
like
said,
that.
"Look, this ain't just something that looked kind of weird, and we're trying to figure out what we saw. We saw this. This was
Right.
absolutely a manifestation.
Right.
The devil's real. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit
He
here
is.
and tell you he's
Yes.
not. I'm not
He
afraid of
is.
him.
Right.
I was little shook up that morning, but
Well, hey,
you
it
know,
can scare you.
yeah.
Believe
I
me,
mean,
it
he
can
did.
scare
He
you.
did. He
It can scare
startled
you.
me for a little bit. That's right.
Yeah. And that guy that you talk to, whoever he is,
Yeah.
he would remember a debriefing. In a debriefing, after you go into certain things like that, Pastor
Ah.
Paul, do you not know that they have 3 priests and they have to pray and cleanse the people that come off missions? Do you know that?
Wow.
And do you know why?
No.
Because when you come from certain places, certain places in the earth, when you come back, they expect you to have something in you, and you have to be cleansed of that influence.
Okay, that's that. What I'm saying. Could it be that can they the dark force? Here's what he's saying. The dark force has put a he calls it a parasite in people. Is there is such a thing, or is it more of a
Think of it as a think of it as a spiritual seed
okay?
that has physical capabilities. It's kind of like an alien implant, right?
Okay.
It's just like an alien implant. It's just like that. And what they're calling an alien implant, the real ones are alive in the body but dead outside the body. They're inert outside the body. There have been so many cases where these things are emitting radio signals. They they are bonded to the nervous system of the individual perfectly without rejection. When they're taken out, they stop emitting radio signals. That's been proven over and over and over again. In fact, they have a display for identification. They have, hundreds of different types, configurations, and shapes. Right. So they know those are real. But you're looking at something that's half physical, half spiritual. Right.
Okay.
You're looking at something that has some sort of very dark forces over that thing to cause it to function and operate. Right now, as far as objects in this realm, these physical objects, a lot of people think that a spirit requires energy. Right. Well, that's what civilians know. I give you a small one here. You ready for this?
Okay.
God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now, before that, the earth was cloaked in mass darkness. Right. So
Yes.
it had no order. Had no order. When God said, "Let there be light," He spoke order. So when He
Praise
spoke
God.
order, all things had a place. All things had a purpose. Everything of the living gods has a place and a purpose. When these things come around, they disrupt light, right?
Mm.
So what they do is chaos comes. The reason why your wall, your house hasn't flown up in the air is because of God's order,
Thank you,
right?
Jesus.
God has an order to everything. But in the presence of Satan, that order is out of the window. True darkness is chaos. So that means nothing has order and things can move all over the place, right? As soon as the light comes back in, the light gives order to everything again. So in the absence of light, you have this potential for things to fly off the wall, this, that, and the other, right? When the order comes back in, nothing like that can happen. So
Amen.
these spirits don't require energy. Their very presence is against the light, right? And so anything against the light is chaos because light is order. Like that scripture when it says the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Well, that
Yes.
means all this time, the powers of the heavens have not been shaken. They have
Ooh.
been stable, right? They
Right.
have been in an order. So at a given time, the order of the heavens is going to be withdrawn. There'll be no order. There'll be no, stability. All that's going to be taken away. And that is the shaking part, right? Um,
Wow.
and it just so happens that the kingdom of the beast, this dark kingdom rises, which is a dark kingdom full of
Yes.
chaos and everything else. Well, that's the absence of God's order. And the heavens have lost their order at the same time. In fact, the whole nature of Revelation, you'll see that God's order is pulled away a little bit. Now, of course,
Amen.
God does this, or nothing could. If God didn't allow the beast kingdom to rise, it could never rise.
Amen.
Do you know why? Here's something funny. No matter how small the light is, it repels the darkness. But darkness can never repel the light. All a person has to do is keep that light shining, and guess what? They pierce the darkness always. Even with the tiniest light, the darkness is pierced.
Amen. All right, Mike, let me move you into something else as well. Wow. Great explanation of things was happening. Mike, we got this webinar coming up at the end of the month, which is called Pole
Oh, yes.
Shift. All right,
Yeah.
so I've interviewed Gil Brazar today, which was incredible. And I interviewed BP Earthwatch yesterday. But BP did a video earlier today. I don't know if you got the chance to see it. But there's a plasma wave that's headed toward the Earth. It's going to hit tomorrow evening.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah, I know,
largest
yeah.
plasma wave ever that he knows. I mean, at least in the last 12 years. He's concerned it could cause a volcanic eruption or a massive earthquake or the power grids could be fried or something's going to happen. Okay, Mike, the last 5 days we've had 5 X-class solar flares. In the last 5 days, we've had 81 tornadoes in America. In the last 5 days, we've had 5, counting tonight, near-miss asteroids that are closer than the moon is to the Earth. I mean, scraping. One tonight's going to miss us by 0.1 lunar distance. That's a little too close for comfort. So can I ask you, are we seeing, why is the sun exploding like this? Why are the Earth, by the way, we had 33 volcanoes erupt today, 21 more that have warnings that they're about ready to go. So tell us what this all means, Mike. This is serious, right?
Well, like last week, I said it has begun.
You did.
It
You
has
did
begun.
say that.
That's
You
my
did.
opinion. It
Yep.
has begun. And as far as the sun,
Meaning,
I believe that was they were tracking R3664, right? Which is
yep,
right now, I believe that sunspot is what 16 times larger than Earth. Anyway, these
that's huge.
sunspots,
Isn't that
the
huge?
yeah, BP Earthwatch. By the way, BP Earthwatch for the Christian community, this online community, he was the first one to identify tectonic movement, right, with flares.
Yes, he
So kudos to
was.
him for that.
Yes,
He was the first one to identify that. That was pretty awesome.
yes.
But he's right. This could be. No one knows what this will do, Pastor Paul. When you're dealing with energy of that magnitude and that compressed, right? Because you're talking about you're talking about waves that overtook the other waves, right?
Yes.
Cannibalistic
Yes.
waves that overtook the other waves. So yeah, that expected date of Friday or Saturday for a geometric storm absolutely could be a problem, right?
Could we have
Now,
an earthquake? Are you worried? Are you concerned?
I believe we will. And due to Mexico, everybody remembers Mexico, right? They had a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Um, they have volcanic issues and problems, which is tied to Texas and California. Remember about the Cusco plate?
Yes.
If that goes, it's all gone,
Yes.
right? And so California, well, I'll say something about that during the webinar.
Please help us. Oh, okay.
During the webinar.
All right, during the webinar.
But let me share this.
Okay.
The Earth, right? The upper atmosphere of the Earth, the ionosphere, absorbs high energy electromagnetic radiation from solar flares. Okay, so the flare comes in, hits the ionosphere, prevents it from reaching the surface of the Earth. The ionosphere by itself, just go a little deeper, is made up of three regions: D, E, and F. Right? These are subregions within the ionosphere. Right? I have a severe concern with the D region. The D region is about 35 to 55 miles above the Earth. Okay, and then of course it goes into the E, F regions. The D region is a very volatile region. By the way, without the ionosphere, we would not have radio communication at all. Right? So, but it's full of ionized radiation.
Okay.
Ionized radiation is very dangerous.
Okay.
If we were exposed to ionized radiation, it would knock the electrons out of the atoms of our bodies, and then of course we die. You know, that's the way that works. It disrupts DNA and everything else. The ionosphere stops that from happening. So it's the upper layer of the Earth that absorbs this. Here's the issue: the D region is going to get hot, Pastor Paul. Okay. It's going to get hot with this plasma burst. The Earth will absorb the energy from this burst. Think about that. All that energy released is going to get absorbed. Every part that hits the ionosphere, the bow shock, once it goes to the bow shock, helipulse, all this stuff, it's going to get absorbed by the Earth. I think it's going to go right into the D region.
Okay, help me, Mike. What is the D region? What's the E region? What's the F region? I'm sorry.
These are ionosphere regions.
Okay.
These are ionosphere regions. These are regions broken up in the ionosphere.
Okay.
For good reason, because they do, they're responsible for different things. The D region is a very dangerous region for us, because if it's overloaded, we're going to have an Asia problem. Just in case nobody knows, Asia is having the hottest temperatures they've ever had. They have an emergency happening right now. And Asia is in trouble right now. They're in trouble.
Really?
They've had the hottest April ever. Yeah, Asia has. They have water shortages. Their power systems are failing all over the place. They have some severe problems. And death toll is piling up. Anyway, this same thing.
Wait a minute. Nobody knows about the death toll that's piling up.
It's piling up over there. So they have severe problems. Big problems. And if a disease breaks out, if it were to break out right now in Asia, it would take Asia. It would sweep Asia. It would sweep it. We're going to have the same issue. We only have another month. Pastor Paul is coming right here to you.
Whoa! Time out! What? Wait a minute. There's thousands of people dying in Asia, and we've got one more month, and it's going to happen here. Yes. Is it the bird flu? Or is it some other?
No. Heat. It's a heat issue.
Oh, it's a heat issue. Okay.
And with this heat issue, and with these solar flares, right? It's a good reason. BP, he's sharp. He's on his job doing the same. But
yes,
we have a problem here in America that nobody else has, right?
Okay.
We decided to build a bunch of nuclear facilities here in the USA. We did.
Yes.
Everybody knows that during the Carrington event, Motors began to turn all by themselves, right? Things that were unplugged began to run all by themselves, specifically AC motors, DC brushless motors, things like that. Pastor Paul, do you know what happened? Um, let me say it. So I have to say it sideways. I'm going to say sideways. I can't give it right out front, but let's give a hypothetical here. Suppose we have a nuclear facility
Okay.
that's being decommissioned. It's being decommissioned.
Okay.
Now, of course, that nuclear facility has to run because it has to cool down these rods. You know, it has cooling systems in there,
Yes.
right? The turbine was not moving, but it was charged. Let's just say one of those turbines gets charged from the sun, from an overactive ionosphere. And it, for some reason, begins to turn, throwing back EMF into the uranium pool, heating it up even more, almost causing a meltdown, right? And this is through a minor CME. Oops, what would happen during a major CME?
I didn't
You're looking
know.
at EMF backfeed because, see, when you have a CME, the relays they use, voltage can jump those relays. Back EMF will build up, those turbines will start to turn anyway.
Really?
And it's going to cause the whole system to fail, to melt down, right? So there is no shutdown. You know that, right? There's no shutdown.
Wow.
If we had nuclear facilities back during the Carrington event, the USA would not be here today.
It would have been over.
Would not be here today.
It would have been over because we had
every facility would have melted
all
down.
we had was telegraphs, and it fried the wires. I mean, it burned the wires, right?
Right.
People got electrocuted.
It actually made the equipment work when it was not plugged in. Imagine that. And it also, one of the important things, it became daytime in the nighttime.
I mean, that's crazy. Wait a minute. Are you serious? I didn't know that. Really?
It was that bright. Yeah, it was that bright. So here's what I'm proposing. And here's the problem. I won't go into detail now, but we have another warning. This is solar cycle 25, right? This solar cycle was supposed to hit in 2025. I'm sorry. Right?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Not 2024.
So it's way ahead of schedule.
It is. This solar cycle has just messed up everybody's schedule. Okay. It's out there. Right.
Okay.
The past 4 solar cycles have been relatively calm. Solar cycle 25 is unexpectedly active. So we have a problem because now we're going to have multiple peaks to the maximum within the maximum, right? We're already experiencing one. This is a peak, but then the sun will level out and go to another peak. And what that means is that sunspot, for example, sunspot, which one is it, guys? Help me out here. Sunspot R3664. Right?
You're right.
It's 16 times larger than Earth, and it's getting bigger. So imagine if we had 15 of those.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be
15.
Well, we get whammied so many times from so many sunspots, we would just fry, wouldn't we?
This is what there's a potential of that. But here's the issue. We have that precise thing happening right now. We have the formation of that precise thing right now, right? There's a network that monitors the sun all the time. We're talking about it. It's a global oscillation network group. So they have a station in California, Hawaii, Australia, India, Spain, I believe Chile, and there are 3 engineering and testbed sites in Boulder, Colorado. They monitor the sun's activity, earthbound, earthside, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that they can record all anomalies from the sun, so they can get a very accurate picture of what it's doing, so they can follow the history of the development changes of the sun. The sun is doing things, and it's way off trending from what it usually did, right? This means that some external force is bearing down on us big time, right? Causing the sun to be a little more hyperactive than normal. This will reflect in our weather patterns. This will reflect in both northern and southern anomalies in the ocean, which will be detected. Very few people are going to know what they are, but they're going to get worse and worse and worse. And part of the tectonic shifting that's going to take place is going to be enormous. That's going to be a norm. This will be followed by, with all these storms that we have, and these hypercanes and all these different weather phenomena that we're having, right? It's going to raise the death toll even more, but it's going to abruptly stop. We're going to have no clouds. That region of time when we have no rain is coming. zero rain.
That's
But no one's
crazy.
preparing. Like
No.
right now, is anybody preparing for July? Nope. Is anybody preparing for June? No.
Do
And
you
people saw what happened this last week, correct?
are you saying that we're going to have one of the hottest summers ever here in America or
It's
around the
going to be
world?
bad.
Is
It's
it?
going to be bad.
Are we going to have a lot
Very
of
bad.
hurricanes in the fall or no?
We're going to have some pretty sizable
Okay. But
anomalies
you're more
past
worried
fall.
about the heat that's coming in the summer.
Yeah, the weather overall, this in combination with one more thing. Um, all celestial formulas, celestial mechanics, is 99% of the mass of our solar system is missing.
What? Now wait a minute. Say that again.
It's
What?
off center. 99% of the mass of our solar system is missing, is off center. It
It's
should be centered,
missing.
but it's not. It's not. It's not. Here,
Okay.
here's here's a fact. Binary stars are most of the stars that we have observed. 85% have been binary. 20% have been triple or greater star clusters in number, which leaves a whopping 5%, Earth included, right? Or our solar system included. So we are, right now, because it's very difficult to observe if we're in a binary system or not, by the eye, even by optics, it's very difficult. Not by that gravitational force that sits right at the outer belt of our solar system, right? That's the center of mass in a binary system that's now shifting. Now, the only way that can shift is if we, in fact, are in a binary pattern,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Okay. Talk to us about this.
Well, that's been identified. The center mass of our solar system that was far out past Pluto has shifted near Pluto, right? That means our position in conjunction with the binary star is changing. That's
Hmm.
what that means.
Okay.
This accounts for Voyager 1 and 2 when they had to do the mathematics over again because of they had to recompute for gravitational pull that was unexpected. As soon as it started leaving the Earth's influence, it was tugged away into one direction. Both were. Nothing was out there. But now they knew what it was. It
Yes.
was the center mass of two stars.
Center mass of two
Yep.
stars.
Also, the moon's rotation,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Jupiter, Neptune, all these different planets, the mathematics of their orbits do not work out without adjustments. Neither does the moon's orbit around the Earth. As soon as you put us in a binary system,
So we'll
right,
be in. Okay. Okay. Keep
the
talking.
mathematics works perfectly.
So we're in a binary system.
Thank you.
And we're not talking Jupiter here. We're talking beyond the end of our solar system. Am I right? The end of the solar
Yeah,
system.
I honestly believe Jupiter was probably being about to become something else, and it didn't. But our center mass is still well beyond Jupiter, right? It's well
Okay.
beyond Jupiter.
Yes. Yes.
And all the mathematics work out. You know, they recently did, and this year they did some simulations of the solar system.
Okay.
Some of the best computers that anybody could have.
All right.
And it only works in a binary system. Planetary movements, right? Every single hiccup of every single planet works out fine mathematically, only in the binary model. It does not work with a single star.
Huh.
And that's why even now with how they do craft and everything else, they make adjustments to those formulas, which makes radio communication and delayed programming very important for everything that goes out in space. Now, if you put us back in a binary system, they need not make any adjustments, right?
Hmm.
So they this year, that's pretty much confirmed, right? So everybody should expect textbooks and everything else to begin to change at the end of 2024 going into 2025 to adjust for this. Here's the issue though. The sun is starting to feel certain effects, which makes this solar cycle a warning. This is not going to be a good solar cycle at all,
It's not.
right? It's going to be indeterminate. It's not going to be as predictable
Well,
as the others.
okay. So it's not going to be. You don't know if it's going to be hot or cold. I mean, tell me what you mean by
We're facing
unpredictable?
different effects here. we're facing very different effects. Right now, first of all, the activity that we're having right now, they did not expect until 2025.
Okay, I understand that. That's true.
But we're
I
having it
understand it.
now, and
Yes.
it's already off the scales,
Mm,
right?
mm.
We've had more sunspots than what we have now, but not the sheer force of energy that's being released from the
But
sun
well,
on
okay,
a
but
daily
what
basis.
about this plasma wave now? Is this the first time we're seeing? I mean, we're going to get whacked here,
Yes, yes.
Mike. We're going to get
That's the first.
whacked.
I believe
Uh,
that's the first time. Actually, that's the first time in a long time that anybody has ever seen that condensed force, right?
okay,
From
okay,
from
okay.
three sunspots be released like that. And in fact, you could say we had a set of six, three one days and three some days prior, right? Same thing. So that's very condensed
Okay.
power coming towards us.
Okay.
It's different if it goes out somewhere else, but coming towards us, we've not been in this predicament for a long time.
Right. All right, Mike. I know we've been on this a long time about this, different things going on out there. Can we talk a little bit about the Middle East, about the fact that the president he's withholding shipments of ammunition, especially the big bombs that you dropped if you're going to go into the bunkers to go get Hamas. What does this mean, Mike? I mean, what's going on here in this? I mean, are we at a breaking point here, whether America's going to stand with Israel or not? What's your thoughts?
America's made their position clear, right? As far as that, Biden is trying. His administration is trying to appease these protesters, these people,
That's
right?
a
All
joke.
they perceive is that these protesters are, they're not satisfied. And I hate to say this, but Democrats have a way, and this is their way, whether a person is a Democrat or not. They believe in negotiations with conversation and giving everybody a little bit of what they want. To me, that's called compromise. We have a
Right.
value system here in this country. We do. We're founded on the very place they're turning their back on, and we have no business. So you can't support the beginning of somebody's actions only to pull the plug because somebody started crying in your backyard. You can't do that.
No.
And so they gave him 35K bombs before, 3,500 bombs, right? But they refused to give any more should they persist with their activities. I hate to tell them, Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to stop. He's not going to do it. He's not going to stop. He's going to continue to do what he has to do because he understands what the implications are. So do we by reading the Bible, the trampling of Jerusalem underfoot, the very unattractive thing nobody
Right.
wants to hear about, right?
Right.
He understands what will actually happen. He knows the capabilities of Iran in truth. He knows Turkey's position, right? He knows how the Middle East can switch in a heartbeat. See, if Israel did not have the power it had, everybody would have assaulted Israel already. The only reason people have not assaulted Israel in mass is because of what Israel can do. So, in truth, Benjamin Netanyahu is the only reason they have not gone in by force to take over Israel, right? Part the land and to give Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, over to the Muslims. That's the only reason why.
He's the only
But this is
guy
not going to
standing
last.
it. Right.
Right. If he gets arrested, I hope that everybody understands if he gets pulled out of power, if something happens to him, right, then the situations that take place following that, well, that's going to prove the whole point right there. Then people will see what their actual sentiment truly was, right? And what will the USA do? We're going to curse ourselves. That's what we're going to do. I don't stand nor support anybody who would ever withdraw any capabilities away from Israel, knowing their situation, knowing its heritage. So what they're doing is, they're damaging themselves, and there will be penalties from what they're doing. I hate to say it, but there are going to be consequences to what they're doing here in
When
this country.
America, so what Biden is doing is going to bring consequences upon America.
Yep.
Yeah,
Look at the weather. Look at the weather already, right?
thank you. Thank you.
We have been incredibly blessed, but it just so happens in the very areas that decisions are being made, those areas are hit the hardest by these. You think that's coincidence?
No.
Because I track things like that. I believe that no storm is purposeless, because I believe the Lord's work is purpose, full of purpose,
So you
and so
believe
they
you're
have meaning in them. I don't
so
believe in this random stuff that people believe in. I don't
you're
believe in that.
right.
I believe that God knows exactly what He's doing, and if we pay attention, we'll be able to see it too.
I agree with you. I mean, I've said a lot of times, and you guys know that I've said, whatever's going on in the spiritual world manifests in the physical. We've seen this time and time and time again. And so the very week that Biden decides that he's going to withhold the ammunition for Israel to fight a war against the enemies, God sends 81 tornadoes, 5 X flares, 33 volcanoes around the world. But for America, I mean, he just starts smacking. I mean, we got to like, Joe, stop. I mean, it's the judgment of God, isn't it, Mike?
That's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I believe that's a wake-up call, because God knows there's still believers in this country. They're real believers, right? So he didn't
Yep.
want to kill off the whole country, because
No.
he'll salvage a place. If it's 100 left, 5
Exactly.
left, he'll salvage a place. But we're just in that time, and we're starting to see, if Christians would wake up and look, they would actually see exactly what the Lord is doing. You know what, Pastor Paul, I saw this tornado hit a hotel, and the people were in there playing pool at the bar, doing what they do, until they heard the alarms go off. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody. This was a day and a half ago. Nobody knew what to do. Then, of course, the tornado came and took half that hotel off. Right? It was a sad thing to see, because I perceive these end time happenings that people think are so distant. I perceive the exact same thing happening. Right? They're going to be around doing their thing like they're doing now. You're going to have some people who say they're Christian, and they're going to be involved in things they shouldn't be involved in.
Right.
And that thing God put on their heart to change, they're going to put it all for another day. And then it's going to hit. And when it starts, it's not going to stop, and they're not going to know what to do. They're going to be overcome by all sorts of things. But the consequences are inbound. Right? We have inbound things from space, other than the sun, other than CMEs and things like that. We have other problems. We face a real possibility of impact here on this earth at any given moment. Right?
Right.
Mathematically, that is supported. We're also in a zone. We're headed into a zone we've never been in before. That's going to become painfully obvious with some of the gases that are introduced with the Earth and all the other planets. So conditions will continue to degrade. The red dust storms are coming all over the face of this globe.
Okay, you've talked about that in the past. What do you mean by it's coming?
We're going into a place with exotic gases and particulates. Right? So our whole solar system is going to enter into this place. It is full of trash. And what I mean by trash, I mean gases, exotic gases, debris from things that happen we don't know about. We're headed straight for it. Right? We're headed right for it. We will enter into this in a very short time. A very short time, we're going to be in it. We've already hit some of the part where the gaseous area will begin to affect the outer planets, and we're going to see those effects as they come inward to our planet. And we can escape this. There's no escaping it, right? Because we're going to see a change in the sun. We're going to see a permanent haze. You know how we can look up and see the clouds? All that's going to be gone. We're going to see a permanent haze. The sun is going to burn off all that material. It's going to be able to use some of that. But when the iron hits and the particle exchange begins to happen, the sun is going to be incredibly bright. And then all of a sudden, people are going to see this in the middle of the night. I suspect in the middle of the night, it'll become daylight. And they're going to think it's daylight. They're going to say, well, what happened to clouds? Or something like that.
Whoa.
And then that will be that.
All right.
That's due to the nature of how sunspots form. That's due to the nature of this upcoming of what's called the change of polarity of the sun, the polar flip of the sun. That's going to have a big effect this time. We have not been in this position before. And the nuclear reactors, right, are going to be a major issue for the USA. In fact, anybody who has nuclear reactors as a bomb sitting in their nation. Is there a mitigation? You know what? To add some of the urgency to this, do you not know, Pastor Paul, they spent $500 billion in coming up with a mitigation plan for that very thing in the last 2 years. They already knew about it. You know, they're going to dump about $1 trillion into this, right? To have some sort of mitigation plan for this. So folks should not be alarmed when they start to decommission certain parts of nuclear power plants, because they have to come up with a solution and come up with that fast. We just don't have the time. We don't have time for them to go through the course of testing and development to get that done. We don't have that time.
We have Apophis coming in less than 5 years. We have the binary system that's wrecking our universe. We have the sun exploding, literally throwing off CMEs and plasma storms, and because of that, we have earthquakes, we have volcanoes, tornadoes, potatoes, tomatoes. I don't know. We got everything going on. Monsoons, blood moons, baboons. So let me ask you, in the middle of all of this chaos that we see that's happening, we also have the President of the United States, former president, in the middle of a trial that I don't know what to do about this, Mike. Do you have any feedback, okay,
Yeah, I
with
do.
what's going on here?
I know what to do about it. You know what I wish people would do?
Okay.
I wish people would come forward and say, hey, look, here's where we are, and tell the nature of maturity. Here's the nature of maturity. When you're 18 years old, right? When you're younger, sometimes you do things you shouldn't have done. You get older, you change. Nobody stays the same, right?
Right.
Nobody. Now, can a person's private nature things get in the way of any position or seat they hold? Does it deplete the job that they're doing? Did somebody expect Jesus himself to be elected president? I think that what people are doing is they have dehumanized what a president is, and they've forgotten about the human factor of all leaders. They're just
Okay.
human beings, right?
Right.
But they
Exactly.
also change. We know President Trump changed.
We know
We
he
know
did.
that. We also know that all throughout his back in the day, they were antics. Just recently, he's very involved with affairs and everything else. People change. By the way, if they uncovered all these scandals of the other leaders, everybody would go tuck tail and run. Number two,
Yep.
this trial that they're having, right? You see, they're trying to flip it into something legal that they can prosecute him on to stop him from
But
being
there is
president,
no legal.
right?
Is there any legal grounds for
But
this?
here's what they're doing. They know his nature, but he's doing very well by holding his tongue. He will tell people up front what he's doing, right? He already told people about Stormy Daniels.
Right.
So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. He said, hey, he wasn't proud of that. He knows he did that.
He
He did.
knows.
He knows he
Right.
did that. He wasn't
Right.
proud of that.
He
So
knows.
what they're doing now is they're trying to get him on some campaign violation thing, right? Which, by the way, New York has that right to do that in New York City, right? Now, in the meanwhile, but here's the mistake they're making. And this is where a believer is simply a believer. The Lord does not abandon anybody who believes in him. He does not.
That's
What
true.
he does is
That's
he
true.
uses their situation to strengthen the individual, right? When you go to a gym, the weights do what? They resist you. So long as you continue to pull up that resistive weight, you get stronger and stronger. So everything that seems to oppose us, God will have that be a workout for us and we get stronger.
Right.
What's happening to President Trump right now is he is starting to get some resolve, right? You know how when you did something you shouldn't have done, and then it comes out and you're like, well, I can never do that. I can never afford to do that again, right? We have those corrective moments. All of us have those corrective moments.
We
But
all
guess
do.
what? It has little to nothing to do with the job performance we have in our positions that we hold, right? Except now that was president. A president is not a pastor. It's not a pastor. It's a
Thank
president.
you.
He loves
Even
his
if you're a
country. He does.
pastor, you're not
He loves his
perfect,
country.
okay? But
And the one thing I like about Donald Trump is he won't compromise. I love that about you. Here's what I mean, because I can't personally, I can't deal with a person who tries to make everybody happy. You can't do that.
you can do it.
You can't. You can't make a foul person
You
happy.
can't.
You can't do that.
No.
You have to stick to your ideology and go forward with it. That's called integrity, even when nobody is looking. And so Donald Trump does that, doesn't he? If he
Yep.
believes in something, hook or crook, he's going straight forward. We can, that you can trust. At least you have a foundation with that. But for a person who will change for the sake of position, a person who will change for the sake of power, for the sake of appeasing this person, that person, is a little cowardice in that. That is not negotiation, right? That is compromise of values. Look
I
at our
agree.
moral system. It has dropped down to nothing, right? I mean, absolutely nothing. And how can we abandon? How can a cell phone walk away from its owner? If you picked up your cell phone and it refused to dial a number, what would you do with that cell phone?
Smash it. Or
Here you
get
go.
rid
It's
of it.
no
Yeah.
good for nothing.
Yeah.
If it can't make a call, it's good for nothing. right? Because it's a cell phone. And so compromise will often have you doing things you were never designed or intended to do in the first place, like our presidency. In truth, our presidency should not be involved in half the stuff they're involved in. They're
Right.
taking care, they truly are taking care of everybody else. And that upsets me a little bit because you have kids here in the USA. You have kids all over the world, actually, but here in the USA, it's like they'll turn their back on people here in the USA. They have an expectancy of folks here in the USA. They're not educating people here in the USA. They're allowing an entire culture just to implode here in the USA. Why? Because they're doing weird stuff. How can a child at the age of 6 decide if he's a boy, he wants to be a girl? At the age of 6? Isn't that a bit
Impossible.
too
That's
young?
insanity.
That's right. And so you have that type thing going on. People are trying to appease everybody. Our Father calls that compromise, right? That's what he calls it, compromise. And so now I can see why in the Bible when it says, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them. Because when they say peace and safety, they will say, hey, our way has been established and everybody gets what they want, right?
Right.
That's what Israel got in trouble for back in the day. They compromised on every side. They did. They did. We can't do that.
That's
We
right.
are a Christian nation,
That's
right?
right.
Under one God, not Chris, Muz, Hindu, and every other nation under 1,000 gods. We're not that.
No.
But look at the representation we have in our government, and look at these protests. These protests. What are they protesting? They're not protesting on the side of Christianity. What
No.
they're doing is committing treason because they're
Yes.
holding these
Yes.
colleges hostage,
Yes.
saying, well, you meet our demands. To me, that's ransom. You don't tell somebody you meet our demands,
No.
or we're just going to stay here and disrupt your institution. No,
No.
no, no.
No.
Sorry,
No.
sorry. They need big long buses for that. That's my sentiment.
I agree with
Or
you.
send them over there to Gaza and let them, give personal care to them. That's what I would do. But
They
you just
wouldn't
can't do
last
that.
10 minutes, Mike. They wouldn't
You,
last
well,
10
you can't.
minutes.
You just can't do that. But the kids are doing that, Pastor Paul. You know why? Because they have learned to reject what's before them. Is called rebelliousness.
Who
It's
taught them,
simple
Mike?
rebellion.
Who
It's
taught them?
rebellion.
Who taught them this?
That's their parents and the spokespeople for government and these presidents who come in and say you can do anything you want to do and nobody can tell you to do any different. Right? That's a loss of discipline.
So are
I'm
the
sorry.
1968 are the Bill Ayers generation, the Barack Obama generation, is that who's running now these college institutions? These were activists, these were communists, these were Marxists, these are socialists, these are anti-godless people running our institutions who are teaching and hiring faculty to teach the same garbage to our kids. Is this what's happening?
And ask yourself, who are they? You know who they are?
Who are they, Mike?
The corporate leaders.
Yes. Oh, that's even worse.
They're corporate leaders.
Oh,
They're responsible for
Jesus.
the Barack Obamas. They're responsible for some of these ideas, some of these ideologies that are coming forward. This is coming from a corporate position, right? That's where it's coming
You're
from.
right. Is this the beast kingdom trying to rise
You
on
better
us?
believe it. Oh, it's doing more than trying.
Oh,
It has
it's
put
in
its
the process.
claws
It's
in everything.
yeah.
There's the persecution of any leader who would ever dare say, no, I'm not going to compromise my values. They're all going to jail.
You're right. You're right. Okay, this election's huge. We can't get into politics really here on YouTube.
No, we
'Cause,
can't.
but certainly you agree with me that this coming fall will be the. Do you believe is the? Is it going to be one of the critical moments in this empire, the USA known as an empire? Is it going to be the critical moment of this empire's history?
Oh, yeah. And Northcom is going to be very busy.
Northcom.
Hmm.
Mike, okay, I don't even want to go any further. I think you've just nailed everything tonight. I hope I didn't interrupt him too much because I get
No, you're good to go, Passport. You're good.
I was laying back tonight because I didn't want to get in trouble because
You're good to go.
I get a lot of hate mail from my people, so I try my best to do the right thing.
Man,
Mike,
you're good to go.
okay, thank you, Mike. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was great information, and truly, it's empowering to us, and it's informative to us, and it causes me to keep praying and believing in these end times. So I want to thank you with all my heart for being with us tonight and for being a part of this webinar that's coming up. And you held back even tonight because you got something for us on this webinar. You said, no,
Yeah,
no, no,
dude.
no. Okay. So I
Yeah,
want,
dude.
yeah. Thank you for being here tonight, Mike.
Pastor Paul, is always an honor. God bless you, brother.
The honor's mine, Mike. God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. God
Bye-bye.
bless.
It's Mike from around the world, folks. I hope I worked at it. I know last week I got a lot of people sending me, Paul, you're interrupting too much. I don't want to do that. I promise with you, I don't mean to do that. Sometimes I got a lot of questions that I want to get in that hour or so that I'm with Mike. And so I do. I went back and listened to the broadcast, and I did see where I really interrupted too much. I do. I seen that. I apologize for that. I ask you for your mercy and grace for that. And tonight I worked on that. Okay? And I'll try to keep doing that.